I caught my husband shopping with his first love, smiling like he hadn't shattered our marriage. So I handed the sales associate an envelope thick with divorce papers and a $50 tip. "Give this to the man in the gray sweater," I said. Then I walked away before he could see me. And this was just the beginning. The air in Harrington's was thick with the scent of vanilla-scented candles and expensive leather. The department store was a maze of polished floors and glittering displays, where women in tailored coats browsed silk scarves and men pretended to care about cufflinks. I adjusted the strap of my purse over my shoulder, my fingers brushing against the envelope inside. Thick, heavy, final. I hadn't planned on coming here today. My original errand had been a quick stop at the jeweler next door to reset a loose stone in my grandmother's ring. But then I saw him. Daniel. My husband of 12 years stood near the men's fragrance counter, his dark hair slightly tousled, his stupidly perfect jawline tilted in amusement as he listened to her. Lena. His first love. The one he swore he hadn't spoken to in over a decade. The one whose name still slipped into his conversations like an uninvited guest. Lena always loved this song. Lena used to say the same thing. And now here they were, standing close enough that his fingers occasionally brushed against hers as they laughed over some joke I wasn't privy to. I exhaled slowly, my grip tightening on my purse. A sales associate, a young woman with a too bright smile, approached me. "Can I help you find anything today?" "No," I said, my voice smooth. "Just browsing." My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my lawyer. "Papers are ready whenever you are." I glanced back at Daniel. He was holding up a bottle of cologne, saying something that made Lena laugh. A soft, intimate sound. Perfect. I pulled out the envelope and handed it to the sales associate. "Actually, could you do me a favor? See that man over there? The one in the gray sweater." She followed my gaze. "Oh yes. Give this to him." I pressed a folded 50 into her palm. "And don't tell him who sent it." Her eyes widened slightly, but she nodded. I turned and walked away before she could deliver it, slipping into the crowd. Daniel had no idea what was coming. And I couldn't wait to watch him unravel. The sales associate, Mira, had been working at Harrington's for 3 months, and in that time she'd seen her fair share of odd requests. But this one took the cake. The woman who'd handed her the envelope had been cold. Not rude, not harsh, just detached. Like she was operating on a different frequency than everyone else. And now Mira was holding what felt like legal documents, plus a $50 tip, to deliver to some unsuspecting guy in men's fragrances. She hesitated. What if this was some kind of setup? What if the guy was dangerous? But $50 was $50. She approached cautiously. "Excuse me, sir?" The man, tall, handsome, the kind of guy who probably never got rejected, turned with a polite smile. "Yes." Mira held out the envelope. "This is for you." He frowned. "From who?" She didn't say. His female companion, pretty with long auburn hair, leaned in. "Ooh, a secret admirer?" He chuckled, taking it. "Doubt it." Then he opened it. And his face went pale. Mira didn't stick around to see the rest. 2 blocks away, in a corner booth at Bean and Leaf, Marcus sipped his black coffee and scrolled through his emails. He'd been coming here every Tuesday and Thursday for the past year, ever since his divorce was finalized. The barista, a sarcastic redhead named Elise, slid into the seat across from him. "You look like you're about to draft a strongly worded Yelp review." He smirked. "Just work nonsense." "Uh-huh." She stole a sugar packet from his side of the table. "You know, if you smiled once in a while, people might think you're human." "I smile. When you're not looking." She rolled her eyes and left. Marcus exhaled, rubbing his temple. He had no idea that in less than an hour, a woman with ice in her veins would walk into this coffee shop and change everything. The moment Daniel's fingers touched the envelope, something in the air shifted. Lena's playful smirk faded as she watched his expression darken. His thumb traced the embossed lettering on the front. "Hartwell and Associates Family Law." "What is it?" she asked, leaning in. He didn't answer. He just tore it open, his eyes scanning the first line before his entire body went rigid. "Petition for dissolution of marriage." His breath hitched. His hands shook. Lena snatched the papers from him, her manicured nails skimming the words. "Oh my God." Daniel's head snapped up, his gaze darting around the store. "She's here." "Who?" "My wife." Lena's face paled. What the hell, Daniel? You told me you were separated. I am. Bullshit. She shoved the papers back at him. You're still married and now she saw us. Daniel wasn't listening. He was already moving, shoving past a display of overpriced handbags, his eyes wild. Claire. But I wasn't there. I was already outside, sliding into the driver's seat of my car, watching through the store's glass facade as my husband came undone. Elise wiped down the espresso machine, her eyes flicking to the door as a woman walked in. Blonde. A sharp black coat that screamed money and don't fuck with me. The woman didn't glance at the menu. He didn't hesitate. She just walked straight to the counter and said, "Large black coffee. No sugar." Elise raised an eyebrow. "You look like you could use a shot of whiskey in that." A ghost of a smile. "Maybe next time." As she handed over the coffee, Elise caught a glimpse of the woman's left hand. A wedding ring, but not for long if the way she kept flexing her fingers was any indication. Rough day. Elise ventured. The woman's gaze flicked to the window where a man, disheveled, frantic, was pacing outside, phone pressed to his ear. "Not for me," she said. Then she took her coffee and left. Daniel's phone went straight to voicemail. "Claire. Please. Call me back. We need to talk." He didn't even know where to start. How had she found out? How long had she known? His phone buzzed. "Lena. You need to fix this." He ignored it. His next call was to his best friend, Mark. "Dude," Mark sighed after Daniel's rushed explanation. "You literally told me you and Claire were done." "We were." "No, you wanted to be done. There's a difference." Daniel dragged a hand through his hair. "What do I do?" "Beg." Across town, I sat across from my lawyer, sipping ice water as the woman flipped through a file. "He'll try to negotiate," the lawyer said. "He'll promise to change, to fix things." I set down my glass. "I'm not interested." "Good. Because his financials are a mess. You'll get the house, the investments." "I don't care about the money." The lawyer paused. "Then what do you want?" I smiled. "I want him to lose." Back at Bean and Leaf, Marcus was halfway through his second coffee when I slid into the seat across from him. "This seat taken?" He blinked. No." I extended a hand. "Claire." He shook it. "Marcus." A beat of silence. Then, "You look like a man who knows how to hold a grudge," I said. He smirked. "You have no idea." My lips curved. "Good." Daniel showed up at the house at midnight. I knew he would. I sat in the living room, a glass of wine in hand, the fireplace casting long shadows across the walls. The security system had pinged me the second his car turned onto the driveway. He still had a key for now, but the locksmith was coming tomorrow. The door creaked open. His footsteps were heavy, unsteady. "Claire." I didn't turn around. "You're late. I expected you hours ago." He stepped into the light. His eyes were bloodshot, his shirt wrinkled. He looked like a man who had spent the last 6 hours drowning in panic. "You saw me," he said, voice rough. I took a slow sip of wine. "I did. With Lena." "Yes." A beat of silence. Then, "It's not what you think." I almost laughed. "Really? Because it looked exactly like what I think." He ran a hand through his hair, gripping it like he wanted to tear it out. "We just ran into each other." "I swear." "At the mall. On a Tuesday. How romantic." His jaw clenched. "Claire. Did you fuck her?" The question hung in the air like smoke. He opened his mouth. Closed it. That was all the answer I needed. I set down my glass. "Get out." Marcus watched me from across the table. I didn't cry. Hadn't even flinched when I told him about the divorce. Most women in my position would be a mess, but not me. "You're handling this better than I did," he admitted. I swirled my coffee. "Oh, I'm not handling it. I'm planning." "Planning what?" "His ruin." Marcus leaned back, impressed. "You're scary." I smiled. "Good." Daniel ended up at Mark's apartment, drunk and babbling. "She can't do this," he slurred. "She can't just leave." Mark sighed, pouring him another shot. "Dude. You cheated." "It was once. Once that you're admitting to." Daniel glared. "Whose side are you on?" "The side of not being a fucking idiot." Daniel drained the glass. "I'll fix it." Mark snorted. "How?" "I'll beg." My lawyer slid a document across the desk. Prenup was ironclad, she said. He gets nothing but his personal accounts, and those are almost empty. I scanned the numbers. He's been spending. On her probably. A slow smile. Good. Marcus wasn't sure why he agreed to meet me again. Maybe it was the way I carried myself, like a storm wrapped in silk. Or maybe it was because he recognized the look in my eyes. The look of someone who had been burned and was ready to return the favor. I need a fake boyfriend, I said. He choked on his coffee. What? For photos. Social media. Let him see me moving on. Marcus studied me. You're ruthless. I met his gaze. You in? He grinned. Hell yes. The first photo was simple. Marcus and I at Bistro Laurent, an upscale restaurant Daniel had always loved but never took me to. His hand rested lightly on the small of my back as the maitre d' seated us, close enough to suggest intimacy, but not so close that it looked staged. I wore the emerald green dress Daniel had once said was too much. Marcus wore a smirk. I posted the picture at 8:17 p.m., just as Daniel would be scrolling through his phone, drowning in whatever cheap whiskey he'd turned to after the divorce papers. Caption: New beginnings taste exquisite. No tags. No obvious clues. Just enough to fester in his mind. His call came at 8:23 p.m. I silenced it. Then came the texts. Claire. What the hell is this? Who is that? Answer me. I took a sip of my martini and turned my phone face down on the white linen tablecloth. Marcus arched a brow. Him. He sounds unhappy. I smiled. Good. Lena hadn't expected Daniel to fall apart like this. She thought it would be fun. An ego boost, a little nostalgia trip with an old flame who still looked at her like she was the sun. But now he was drunk calling her at midnight, slurring about Claire and divorce and how could you let me do this? She blocked his number. The next photo was at the art gallery. Marcus's arm around my waist as we stood before a striking abstract painting. One Daniel had once called pretentious garbage. This time the caption was sharper. Funny how pretentious garbage becomes fascinating with the right company. Daniel's best friend Mark liked the post within minutes. I almost laughed. He showed up at my Pilates studio. I saw him through the glass doors, disheveled, eyes bloodshot, pacing like a caged animal. My instructor frowned. Do you want me to call security? I wiped my forehead with a towel. No. Let him wait. 45 minutes later I emerged flushed and victorious. He lunged forward. Claire. I sidestepped him. You're embarrassing yourself. Who is this Marcus? I adjusted my duffel bag. Shouldn't bother you. Over whiskey, neat just like mine, Marcus finally asked the question. Why me? I swirled the amber liquid. Because you don't want anything from me. He chuckled. And here I thought it was my charm. I tilted my head. That too. The knockout punch came on Saturday. A sunset picnic at the cliffs where Daniel had once years ago promised me forever. Marcus's lips brushed my temple in the golden light. Caption: Some promises are better broken. Daniel's response was immediate. I'm coming over. I finished my wine and texted Marcus. Showtime. The doorbell rang at 9:47 p.m. I didn't hurry. I finished applying my night serum, blotted my lips with a tissue, then padded barefoot downstairs. The security feed showed Daniel on the porch, his hair wild, his dress shirt untucked, one hand gripping a bottle of bourbon like a lifeline. I opened the door just as he raised his fist to knock again. He froze. For a long moment we just stared at each other. Then, you look like hell, I said. His throat worked. You look amazing. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. What do you want, Daniel? He swallowed hard. I want to talk. I stepped aside. 5 minutes. He didn't sit. Just paced the living room like a trapped animal, his words tumbling out in a desperate rush. It was only once with Lena. Just once. I was stupid, I was weak. I cut him off. Was it before or after our anniversary trip? He paled. What? The timeline, Daniel. When exactly did you fuck her? A beat of silence. Then barely a whisper, after. I exhaled sharply. So you came home from Napa, told me you loved me, then fucked her the next week. His hands clenched. I regretted it immediately. Funny. You didn't look regretful at Harrington's. His breath hitched. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I stood smoothing my silk robe. Time's up. He crumbled then, actually fell to his knees on my pristine hardwood floors. Please, he choked out, tears streaking his face. I'll do anything. Therapy. Quit my job. Anything. I studied him dispassionately. Stand up. He didn't move. Stand up. When he finally obeyed, swaying slightly, I stepped so close I could smell the bourbon on his breath. Here's the truth, I murmured. You didn't love her. You didn't even want her. You just needed to prove you could still have her. His eyes widened. I stepped back. And now? You can't have me. Marcus texted at dawn. Well, I sent him the security footage of Daniel sobbing on my doorstep. His reply came instantly. Christ. You're terrifying. Daniel showed up at my office. My assistant buzzed me, voice apologetic. Mr. Thorne is insisting. I cut her off. Let him wait. 2 hours later, I emerged to find him slumped in the lobby chair, tie loosened, looking like a man who'd lost everything. As he had. He lunged up. Claire. I walked right past him. His voice cracked behind me. I'll sign the papers. I turned slowly. Great. Then I got in my car and drove away. The law office smelled like leather and expensive coffee. I arrived 15 minutes early, choosing the seat farthest from the door, the power position. Daniel would have to walk the full length of the room to reach me, his every step measured under the cold gaze of my lawyer and her paralegal. He arrived late. Of course he did. The Daniel I married would never have been late to something this important. But this wasn't that man anymore. This version of him had shadows under his eyes, a wrinkled collar, and a tremor in his hands as he reached for the pen. My lawyer slid the final documents across the table. Mr. Thorne, if you'll just initial here, Anne. I know how to read a contract, he snapped. A beat of silence. Then I laughed. Not a giggle. A polite chuckle. Daniel's head jerked up. What's so funny? You, I said. You're still performing. Even now. His jaw clenched. I don't know what you. Sign the papers, Daniel. For a moment I thought he might refuse. Might throw the pen, might beg again. But then his shoulders slumped, and he scrawled his name with such force it nearly tore the page. We rode the elevator down together in silence. 23 floors. 23 opportunities for him to speak. He waited until the doors opened to the lobby. Was any of it real? He whispered. I stepped out without looking back. The prenup was. Marcus had champagne waiting at my penthouse. I poured it down the sink. Whoa, he said, watching the bubbles drain away. That was a $300 bottle. I don't want to celebrate. I pulled 2 beers from the fridge. I want to live. He clinked his bottle against mine. To living then. His first night alone in the apartment was pathetic. He called me at 2:17 a.m. I let it ring. His voicemail was slurred. The bed's too big. I keep rolling over to tell you. A choked sound. Shit, Claire, I'm so. I deleted it. I woke at dawn. No snooze button. No grogginess. Just crisp, clear certainty. I booked a flight to Santorini. Marcus texted as I was packing. Running away? I replied, running toward. The Aegean sun burned hotter than I expected. I stood on the balcony of my cliffside villa, the white stone warm beneath my bare feet, the turquoise sea stretching endlessly below. My phone buzzed on the wrought iron table. Another message from Daniel. I didn't need to look to know what it said. Pathetic. I sipped my iced coffee, the condensation dripping onto my fingers. The salt air clung to my skin, sticky and alive. For the first time in months I felt awake. Then my phone rang. Not Daniel. Marcus. I answered. You're up early. Couldn't sleep, he said. His voice was rough, like he'd been chain-smoking. You were right. About everything. I frowned. What happened? Pause. Then. He showed up at my place. I nearly dropped my glass. Flashback. Marcus's apartment, 3 a.m. The pounding on the door was relentless. Marcus had been awake anyway, nursing a whiskey and scrolling through real estate listings. Why, he wasn't sure. Maybe he was tired of his cramped downtown loft. Maybe he was just bored. Then he looked through the peephole. Daniel. red-eyed, swaying, his knuckles already raw from beating the door. Marcus considered not answering. But something, spite, curiosity, maybe both, made him turn the lock. Daniel nearly fell inside. "Where is she?" Marcus steadied him with a hand to the chest. "You're drunk. Where's Claire?" "Greece, last I checked." Daniel's face twisted. "You're lying. She wouldn't just—" He staggered, catching himself on the wall. "She's mine." Marcus laughed. "Not anymore." That's when Daniel swung. Back to the present. I gripped the railing. "Did he hurt you?" Marcus snorted. "Please. The guy punches like a toddler. And I may have escorted him to the curb." I exhaled. "Good." Silence. He's unraveling, Claire." I watched a sailboat drift across the horizon. "I know. He was drunk when he called Lena again." She answered on the fourth ring. "What, Daniel?" His voice cracked. "I need to see you." Pause. Then laughter, sharp, mocking. "You're joking, right? Lena." "No. You blew up your marriage for a one-night stand and now you're obsessed with your ex? Get a grip." The line went dead. He threw his phone against the wall. Lena stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. She didn't regret sleeping with Daniel. She wasn't some guilty housewife. But she hadn't expected this. The calls. The tears. The way he'd started lurking outside her yoga studio last week. She opened her contacts, hovering over Claire Thorne. Then deleted the number. Not my mess. I woke gasping. The sheets were tangled around my legs, my skin slick with sweat. The dream clung to me. Daniel's hands on my throat, his voice in my ear. "You'll never be free of me." I stumbled to the balcony, gulping the sea air. He showed up on day 5. No warning. Just a knock at my villa door, a duffel bag slung over his shoulder, and a smirk. "Thought you could use backup." I raised a brow. "Stalking me now?" He stepped inside, his gaze sweeping the room. "No. Just figured you'd get bored of revenge fantasies and olive oil." I closed the door behind him. "You're paying for your own wine." The storm rolled in just after midnight. I stood on the villa's terrace, watching lightning fracture the sky over the Aegean. The air smelled of salt and impending rain, the wind tugging at the hem of my linen sleep shirt. Behind me, Marcus uncorked a bottle of wine with a soft pop. "You're going to get struck by lightning," he said. I didn't turn around. Statistically unlikely. Still. Would ruin my vacation. A laugh escaped me before I could stop it. When I glanced back, Marcus was pouring 2 glasses, his brow furrowed in concentration like this was some sacred ritual. The terrace lights caught the silver at his temples, the stubble shadowing his jaw. He looked up, caught me staring. "What?" "Nothing." I took the offered glass. "Just never pictured you as a sommelier. Life's full of surprises." He clinked his glass against mine. "Like you actually laughing." The first raindrops fell as we drank in comfortable silence. It happened slowly. A brush of fingers when passing the olive oil at breakfast. His hand lingering at the small of my back when we navigated crowded village streets. The way we'd somehow started sharing a blanket during evening reads on the terrace, his warmth seeping into my side. Neither of us acknowledged it. Until the morning I woke to find him sketching me as I slept. I kept my eyes closed, listening to the scratch of charcoal on paper, the quiet rhythm of his breathing. When I finally woke, he snapped the sketchbook shut. "Breakfast?" he asked too casually. I stretched. "Only if you show me the drawing first." He smiled, then tossed me the book. The lines were bold, unfussy, just like him. He'd captured me curled on my side, one hand tucked under my cheek, my hair a mess across the pillow. There was an intimacy to it that made my throat tighten. "You're good," I said. He shrugged. "Had a lot of practice drawing schematics." I traced the edge of the paper. "Why me?" Marcus met my gaze. "Because you look peaceful when you're asleep." It happened on day 12. We'd hiked to a Maudi bay, swum in water so clear we could see our toes dig into the sand below. Back on shore, dripping and sun-drunk, Marcus reached to pluck a strand of seaweed from my shoulder. His fingers lingered. Our eyes locked. The moment stretched, taut as a wire, until a tourist's laughter shattered it. Marcus stepped back, clearing his throat. "Hungry?" he asked. I nodded, my pulse hammering. "Starving." That night, over shared baklava, Marcus set down his fork with deliberate care. I need to say something. I braced myself. I lied about why I came to Santorini. I blinked. What? He swirled his wine. I told myself it was to check on you. Make sure you weren't drowning in revenge fantasies. Pause. But really? I just wanted to be near you. The admission hung between us, fragile as the phyllo pastry crumbling on my plate. I reached across the table, covering his hand with mine. I know. It happened at 3 a.m. I'd woken thirsty, padding to the kitchen for water. Marcus was already there, leaning against the counter in nothing but sleep pants, moonlight carving his torso in silver. We didn't speak, just moved toward each other like tides pulled by the same moon. His lips were warm, tasting of sleep and the faintest hint of ouzo from our nightcap. His hands cradled my face like I was something precious. When we broke apart, breathless, he rested his forehead against mine. Finally, he murmured. Sunlight streamed through the shutters as I woke tangled in Marcus. His arms slung over my waist, his breath warm against my neck. He stirred as I shifted. Morning. I turned to face him. Hi. His grin was slow, devastating. So, this happening. I traced the scar on his shoulder, a relic from his construction days. Seems like it already has. He kissed me then, deep and unhurried, and for the first time in years I didn't think about revenge. Didn't think about the past at all. The sheets smelled like salt and Marcus. I lay there in the early morning light, listening to the rhythmic sound of his breathing, his arm heavy and warm across my waist. His fingers twitched occasionally against my hip, as if even in sleep he needed to confirm I was real. I should have felt triumphant. That I felt untethered. Marcus stirred, his voice rough with sleep. You're thinking too loud. I turned to face him. I don't know how to do this. His lips quirked. Pretty sure we figured it out last night. Not that. I pressed a hand to his chest, feeling the steady beat beneath my palm. This. Us. He caught my fingers, brought them to his lips. We don't have to define it yet. I'm here whenever you are ready. I smiled. We were arguing about coffee when my phone rang. Unknown caller. I almost ignored it, until Marcus plucked the phone from my hand and answered. Claire's phone. His expression darkened as the voice on the other end spoke. Without a word, he extended the device to me. Daniel's voice was shockingly clear. I just wanted to hear your voice. Ice flooded my veins. How did you get this number? I still have friends in your office. Pause. You sound happy. Marcus stood abruptly, chair scraping against stone as he walked inside. Daniel continued, oblivious. I've been seeing someone. Thought you should know. I almost laughed. Congratulations. It's not serious. His tone turned pleading. Nothing like what we had. Goodbye, Daniel. By the time I finished, Marcus was on the terrace with 2 fresh coffees. You okay? He asked. I took the cup, our fingers brushing. Better than okay. We took a boat to Thracia that weekend, escaping the Santorini crowds. As we climbed the zigzagging path to the cliffside village, Marcus suddenly stopped. I need to tell you something. The seriousness in his voice made my stomach flip. He turned to face me, sweat glistening on his temples. I bought a house. I blinked. What? Back home. A fixer-upper near the coast. He wiped his hands on his shorts. I was going to tell you before all this happened. The unspoken question hung between us. I stepped closer. Show me the pictures. His shoulders relaxed. It's got terrible plumbing. I don't care. And the kitchen. Marcus. I cupped his face. Show me our house. The word "our" tasted foreign. Perfect. He pressed his forehead to mine. I love you. 3 words. No fanfare. No grand gesture. Just the truth, simple and devastating. I kissed him instead of saying it back. But he knew. The scent of fresh-cut lumber and sea salt hit me the moment Marcus turned the key in the front door. Our front door. The house stood half-finished, its bones exposed, open beams stretching like ribs toward the vaulted ceiling, plywood floors gritty underfoot. Sunlight streamed through uncovered windows, painting rectangles of gold across the raw drywall. Marcus hovered in the doorway, watching me take it in. It's not much yet, but it's perfect. And it was. Not because of the obvious potential, the chef's kitchen framed but not installed, the wraparound deck overlooking the Pacific. But because of the imperfections, the uneven tile samples stacked in the corner, the hand-sketched floor plans pinned to the wall, the coffee rings staining the temporary work table. This wasn't a show house. It was a home. We camped in the unfinished master suite on an air mattress, eating takeout from cardboard containers as the sunset painted the walls in fiery hues. Marcus gestured at the exposed plumbing with his chopsticks. That's where the soaking tub will go. I smirked. Priorities, I see. The doorbell rang at 8:17 a.m. on moving day. I opened it to find Lena on my porch, her auburn hair windswept, a manila envelope clutched in her hands. We stared at each other. "I'm not here to apologize," she said finally. "Good." I crossed my arms. "Because I'm not interested." She thrust out the envelope. "These are Daniel's offshore account records. He's hiding assets." I didn't take it. "Why are you doing this?" A muscle jumped in her jaw. "Because he told me I was the reason his marriage failed." Her laugh was bitter. "Turns out we were both just excuses for his shitty behavior." Marcus appeared at my shoulder, his t-shirt dusted with drywall powder. "Everything okay?" Lena's gaze flicked between us. A slow, knowing smile curved her lips. "Yeah. I think it is." She left the envelope on the doorstep. I handed the documents to my lawyer without fanfare. "Use them if necessary," I said. "But no theatrics." She arched a brow. "Who are you and what have you done with Claire Thorne?" I smiled. She retired. Mornings began with coffee pressed against Marcus's bare back as he cooked breakfast. Days were spent sanding drywall seams side by side, his calloused hands guiding mine when I fumbled with the power tools. Nights ended with wine on the unfinished deck, his arms slung around my shoulders as we watched the lighthouse beam cut through the dark. No grand gestures. No dramatic proclamations. Just this. The quiet certainty of his hand finding mine as we walked through Home Depot, the way he'd absent-mindedly massage my shoulders when I hunched over blueprints too long, the unspoken agreement that my side of the closet was mine, no negotiations necessary. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Daniel's loopy handwriting stared up at me from the kitchen counter. "Claire." Misspelled as always. "I'm sorry. Not for the divorce but for making you fight for it. You deserved better." I showed Marcus. He read it twice. "You believe him?" I studied the sloppy signature, the ink smudged as if he'd hesitated. "I believe he thinks he means it." Marcus folded the letter. "What now?" I took it from him and dropped it in the recycling bin. "Now we finish building our house." The first thing we installed was the tub. Marcus filled it with bubbles and candlelight on our 6-month anniversary, the Pacific wind rattling the still unfinished windows. I sank into the steaming water with a sigh. Worth every penny. He climbed in behind me, his chest warm against my back. "Told you." I leaned back, tilting my head to kiss his stubbled jaw. "I love you." 3 words. No grand gesture. Just the truth, simple and perfect. And for the first time in my life it was enough. The end.